Hi there, it's Louise here of Time the Craft Mama, and today I'm sharing a scrapbook layout process video with you that I've created for the Turtle Soup Forum. And this challenge was set by me, and it was to use turquoise and brown. So what I've done is I've picked a photo and I've gone through my stash and picked out a couple of different things, some brown elements, which really is a lot of the craft sort of papers and embellishments, and a really pretty turquoise piece of paper that's going to become my background for this page. So I've messily cut some strips of paper and I'm going to attach those to the bottom and top of my page, and then we're going to go ahead and start to build some of the elements of this page. Now I knew that I wanted to do sort of an ombre kind of title with different levels of brown and sort of quite a light cream colour. So you can see that I've pulled out some acrylic paints, and I'm going to do a couple of different things to get this layout sort of mixed media, but just not a lot of mixed media, just a little play with some acrylic paints and some elements and things like that. Now I also had this sort of washi tape in my stash. It's not a true washi tape, it's more of like a paper tape, but it was the perfect colours to go along with this mood board. So when I found it in my stash, I pulled it out and thought, yep, I can definitely use that. So this layout is a lot of stash busting, as well as some fun acrylic mixed media elements. The photo that I've chosen is a collage which I've created in Picasa. So Picasa is a free online editing program. If you've not used it, then it's definitely one to check out because it's so simple, so straightforward. So here's my chipboard piece that I'm going to ombre. So I'm starting with the darkest colour first, and I'm just going to apply that with paintbrush and then use a sponge to kind of blend those colours. And what I'm doing is, to get that ombre sort of look as I go along, I'm just adding more cream to that level of brown, and that's how I'm going to get that ombre look. So the final result of this is with the ombre, the chipboard title. It was a lot of work to go ahead and complete it, but I like the way it looks in the final stages. So, you know, just the blending of the colours and the way it starts off light and gets darker. And I do go over this a second time just because the colours did, I didn't apply any gesso or anything to my chipboard, I just left it raw and used the acrylic paint. So I did go ahead and apply a second colour just to tidy up the levels of different brown that I had on that chipboard piece. Now back to my background paper, I'd have previously applied some gesso to that page, and I sort of had a stripy kind of image in my head, and I was trying to work with my watercolors and a couple of different things going on, but in the end it just the result wasn't what I had in my head. So I just take some packaging and smear some color around a couple of different times, and then just leave it and end up covering most of it up anyway, which is sometimes the best way to do things when you're doing mixed media. So I'm going to go ahead and build the cluster around my photo, and again I'm doing this with some of those colours, a nice piece of craft that's got some sparkle to it as well. So I'm just trimming the edges of that, getting that ready to put some more of that turquoise colour behind it. Now, one of my favourite ways to get volume behind my photo or my layers is just to use a cut up piece of cardboard. So I actually keep the packaging boxes that my Happy Mail comes in and chop them up. So, I mean, if you didn't want such thick texture, you could certainly use like cereal boxes or pretty much anything, because it's all paper, it's not going to damage your photo, and it's purely just there to add texture. So as you can see, when I build layers behind my photo, I tend to conserve paper, and all these papers came from a 6x6, and you can see how I'm creating a brown background to this turquoise sheet of card without actually using a whole sheet of paper. I've just taken that brown piece with the deer on it that I didn't want to use the whole sheet of, and I just cut that into quarters to go behind the layers. Back to building the interest and finishing off the elements of this cluster, covering up those little holes where the brown doesn't meet. And you can see that I haven't wasted too much paper, and it still gives the illusion that I've used lots of papers behind that picture. Okay, so cluster's all finished. We're going to come back to our main page, and I'm just going to have a little think about how I want this layout to look, and the background wasn't working for me. So I'm just going to take this sponge and the stencil which I've laid on the side, and I'm just going to spread some of that acrylic paint that I used around the background of this page. So I think that actually gives quite a nice effect. You know, it's still brown and it's not too busy with that turquoise pattern of the background, and it really does help that cluster pop out. So I've let that dry naturally, and I'm going to add just a little bit of stamping just to again break things up a little bit. And I'm going to do this with the white Pitt pen and also some black stamping as well, because it's not a true mixed media layout if it doesn't have some texture stamping in there as well. So background is mostly finished. What I'm going to do now is use some twine. This twine is one of my favorite things. It's so cheap and gives so much texture and interest. So I'm just going to wrap that twine around the page and just create a little backdrop for the photo cluster. You might like to stick each piece down individually. I like to just tape mine to the back and use the twine all over the layout, and then you can see that I'm going to cover most of it anyway, so it's going to be pretty well adhered to the page. Now that piece that you just saw me cut in half, that was actually a stash element that I'd cut from just some brown cardstock using my Cricut machine, and it was something that I'd used on another mixed media layout that I was going to paint over. That's why it was brown. So if I need a certain element for a page, sometimes I will cut stuff with the Cricut, and one of my favorite tips is to cut it the same thing in the same size multiple times, and then you glue it to itself and it gives like this chipboard kind of look. So that's what I'd done with that particular piece, and excuse me, what had happened was I didn't use it, so I just stuck it in my little stash and used it again in this layout. So I'm just applying a couple little elements, a little bit more of that washi tape in the background behind the cluster of the photo, thinking about how I'm going to do my journaling, where I'm going to put that. So I'm just using these craft stickers, and I knew where I wanted that title to go, and I picked out these flare buttons from my stash. So, you know, it's easy enough to create a layout with stash items and just looking for things in the same colour. So I really wanted to inspire the Turtle Soup crew to not necessarily use these colours, but to stash bust and, you know, really think about what you had in order to make a layout. This actually turned out to be one of my favourite layouts because I'm really pleased with that final result. The colours, the background, the ombre title is definitely one of my favourites, you know, really turned out fabulous. So the last thing I've done there is just popped a couple of stickers onto the page. I'm going to finish my journaling, and that'll be this layout all finished. I appreciate you stopping by to check out this video. Please make sure that if you haven't been on before, you pop by the Turtle Soup forum. They have lots of challenges, everything from sketches, cards, tips and techniques, so many fun things to do. They have a chat area where you can talk to other scrappers, lots of inspiration, lots of places that you can go to visit, and even if it's just to pick up new ideas. So I've really enjoyed my term designing for turtle soup, and I really hope you'll get a chance to stop by and have a look. So thanks for checking out this video. If you've created a turquoise and brown layout, feel free to leave me a link and I'll pop by and have a look. Alright, hope you enjoyed. I'm Louise of Timeless Craft Mama. Thanks so much.